After a year away from this project, I started back on Come Our Way this morning. Well, it's been a year since I've written anything new on Come Our Way. And the way I started the process back this time is I started over with 3 chapters. Not started over, but I went back through. I take that back. I did write a little something here. I wrote a new first chapter that kind of introduces the story. It's very short. It was only like 500 words. But that is the only new writing I've done on this project since last summer. That'll be the summer of 2025. Here it is, June of 2026, and I'm picking it back up. Previously, I'd written 9 chapters of the story and pretty much dropped it at the end of the summer last year, picked it up a little bit in March, and about that time, I kind of put everything down and concentrated on other things for April and May. And here we are, like I said, June, getting started back with it. And the process this time, as I'm starting out, I'm going back through the 9 chapters, chapter by chapter, and rewriting as I go, kind of honing the story a little bit. And they say you're not supposed to do that. They say you're supposed to just write the story and then come back to it. But I feel after a year away from the story that I need to go back through these 9 chapters. I need to do a little writing on them before I can take the story forward. And I'm not going to do an outline. I've tried that over the course of the last few months, thinking about where I want to go with the story. And that's not the way that I wrote Perfidious Tides. Perfidious Tides, as I mentioned before, kind of wrote itself. I just started writing and let the story go where it wanted to. I guess this is more personal of a story than Perfidious Tides and Last Castle and Live the Last Day. It's more personal in that a lot of my experiences are going to be filtered into the story. Even though, like I've said before, it's a fictional story, it's going to be based on a lot of real events that I and my family lived through in the early to mid 1980s. And it's going to focus on the farming crisis, people losing their farms at that point, and the way that I saw it through a young kid's eyes. And now as an adult looking back on it, it's going to be a lot in the line like Perfidious Tides. It's going to be gritty. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. What you see is what you get. That's the only way I know how to write a story. And I said before, I don't believe in happy endings on stories, but we'll let the story go where it wants to. And I really don't know how the outcome is going to play itself out in the book. I know where I want to go. I know how I want to get there, but I don't know what the end result is going to be, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Every day that I think about the story, something else comes to mind. I start thinking of a direction. And once I get these 9 chapters, I go back through them. It refreshes my memory a little bit about what I've already written. I'll know which direction I want to go, and I'm just going to start writing and let it go from there. And that's where I am with Come Our Way right now. As it sits in front of me, it's draft 2. Even though I didn't finish draft 1, I don't like just continuing on. One of these 9 chapters, I'm redoing them. Not redoing them completely, but going back through them, we'll call this draft 2. And right now I have 2 chapters done. And that was all done this morning. So maybe it won't take me a long time. Maybe today I'll get through 3 chapters. And then Friday, maybe I can get through 3 chapters. And next week, get through 3 chapters. Get those 9 chapters out of the way. And by the middle of next week, I can start writing again. And I'm not giving or putting the other works on a back burner. I'm going to be working through some advertising, some shows that I'm going to, some farmers markets, and they're all on the website. Like I'm going to be in Tallahassee this month. I'm going to be in Mexico Beach this month. Next month is going to be Port St. Joe down in Florida. And then I've been invited to the Decatur Book Festival in Decatur, Georgia in October. So as soon as I get confirmation, it's on my website, but as soon as I get confirmation on it, I'll put more information about that out there. I need to order some more books, these upcoming festivals and book fairs and things, because I'm kind of low on Live the Last Day. A lot of those copies that I got in are gone. So I got to restock. I need to do that today, to restock and get ready to go to these places and try to get the books out there. And I'm still selling all 3 books for $35 signed by me. I mean, that's a deal right there. So if you feel so inclined, like I said, go to the website, pelhampugh.com, and there's a page there that says special offer. Click on that, and you can get all 3 paperbacks signed for $35. And Perfidious Tides on Kindle is still 99 cents. The other 2 books are priced at $2.99. You know, that's not a lot. It helps me cover expenses. I know I'm never going to get rich doing this, and that's not my intention, but it helps recover costs. And it does cost a pretty good bit of money to publish books on your own and put them out and do the advertising, all this other good stuff. And I've sold a lot of copies. I've moved a lot of copies. And right now we're sitting at 81 reviews for Perfidious Tides on Amazon with a 4.4 average. And that's pretty good. And we're sitting, I think, 50 or 51 reviews on Goodreads with a mid-4 average. And that's out of 5 stars. You know, couldn't ask much more. But right now, like I said, I'm going to really focus on coming away, do the other things with the other books as I try to advertise for the summer and summertime when I have time to ramp up activities like that. And I wanted to talk about one other thing, dealing with Perfidious Tides and the writing involved in it before I forget about it. And that was the involvement of baseball in Perfidious Tides and the resulting 2 books. If you haven't read the books and you don't want any spoilers, now would be a good time to stop. But if you have read the books and you're interested, I wanted to talk about the role my beloved baseball team, the Atlanta Braves, fit into the story. As a child, growing up in Southeast Alabama, there's not a whole lot with professional sports. You're either Auburn, you're Alabama, and even families are divided at that line, my family included. Some of us are Alabama fans, some of us Auburn. You know, some of my family went to Auburn. My daughter graduated from Auburn. So there's that divide. But the one sports team that kind of unites families and Southerners across the Southeast and on out throughout the country is the Atlanta Braves. That is the one sports team that just about all my family can say that, hey, how's the Braves doing? You know, how about the Braves? What do you think about this player? What do you think about that player? And we can all agree on it. And I've been to Braves games since 1982. If you'll remember, I think it was in not Live the Last Day, in our Last Castle, the scene where, and like I said, spoilers, the scene where the 2 brothers meet is outside of old Fulton County Stadium. Outside, I mean, in the statue of Hank Aaron, under his shadow, that is where the 2 brothers finally met again, Rolf and Vern. And I did that for a purpose. That stadium is like a central point of a lot of families throughout the Southeast. Fulton County Stadium. I mean, growing up, like I said, in this area, there's not a lot. And if you were lucky enough to go to a Major League Baseball game in Atlanta, that stadium, seeing it for the first time, those concrete columns plowing out of the ground and coming to that angle with the roof encircling the stadium. It was larger than life. I remember as a child, the biggest or the tallest structure in my small community was the water tower, as in most small rural communities. But the first time I went to Atlanta that I can remember going to Atlanta, my dad, my uncle, and myself drove to Fulton County Stadium. And I remember standing at the bottom of Fulton County Stadium and looking up at it and being in awe. And I don't remember a whole lot about that game, but it was against the Mets in, I think, 1982. But I remember the awe. That's the main thing that I can pull back in my memory of Fulton County Stadium, and that made my first Major League Baseball game. I don't remember the game at all. I remember looking at the stands. I think we were in the upper deck. I can't remember. Maybe been in the lower concourse there. I want to say on the third base side, because when I close my eyes, I can see the other side of Fulton County Stadium. And I remember we must have been in the upper deck, because I remember the speakers hanging over it. And when I think the stadium announcer, I forget his name, I think his last name was Mann, his voice boomed through those speakers, welcome to Atlanta, Fulton County Stadium. And to a kid that grew up in the middle of nowhere, to be in that environment was just beyond imagination. And that's the thing that I wanted to kind of inject into that story, was that sense of awe. When Vern is driving up through the stadium, or he's riding up to the stadium and looking at it, he remembers the first time that he saw Fulton County Stadium with his father and his brother. And that was kind of a real life situation with me. I remember seeing Fulton County Stadium for the first time. Now, there's a lot of things in these stories that everybody that's read them, that know me fairly well, can say that's him right there. That is something he would have said. That is something he would have done, talking about me. So my experiences sort of show through in the writing that I do. And that was one of the major things. I wanted the Braves to be a big part of it. And also, if we remember the little sequence right there where Mateo was driving from the battleship through parts of Alabama right there on the other side of Mobile Bay. And he got to that gas station and he had that cap and he didn't know what that cap meant, the A on it. And the gas station attendant told him it was for the Atlanta Braves. There's just a feeling, I don't know how to explain it, but in this area, like I said, you're connected to the Atlanta Braves if you're a baseball fan. And the Braves went nationwide, I know, on TBS and during that era. And they were terrible when I was a kid. Now, 82, I think they won the West. I wasn't aware of that, didn't really keep up with it. But my father got a satellite one time, just for the explicit purpose of watching the Atlanta Braves on TBS, or satellite dish. And I remember watching the Chicago Cubs during the day. I wasn't a big Cubs fan, but they were on every day because they played during the day at Wrigley when I was growing up. And then at night you watched the Atlanta Braves. I was close to the Atlanta Braves. I kept up with them. I collected their baseball cards. I remember Glenn Hubbard, Gerald Perry, my hero growing up, Dale Murphy. Now, I'd go out there in a little sand, gravel driveway that we had, and we had no softball bat. And I would go out there and throw rocks up, and I would try to mimic Dale Murphy's stance. And he was the number one Brave to me. Ken Oberkfell and Rick Mailer, pitcher. Bob Horner. I mean, just all Ozzie Virgil, Bruce Benedict. All these names kind of are just floating around in my head when I think about growing up as a Braves fan. And then you go through all those years in the late 80s when they were absolutely terrible, losing 100 games a year. But you kept watching. You were connected to this team. This was our team. This was a Southern team. This was the team of the South, the Atlanta Braves. It was the one thing that most of the Southeast could agree on. This was long before you had the Florida Marlins or the Tampa Bay Rays. The Atlanta Braves were the team of the Southeast, and still are, pretty much. You go, if we watch them on TV now, and they go to Miami, they go to Tampa, there's more Braves fans there than there are of the home team, because that's what we grew up watching. And in 1991, when they turned it all around, I mean, I watched every game, every pitch, every out, every hit. I watched everything that summer. I was 15 when they turned it around and became the team that we know them as, winning 14 consecutive division titles, a World Series, several National League pennants. So I wanted them connected to the story. Now, it come my way, I don't think I will connect them to this story because it's not that type of story. I don't think there's a way I could connect the Atlanta Braves into this story. But in Perfidious Tides and Live the Last Day and Last Castle, they are all, the Atlanta Braves are right there. They're part of the story. So I just wanted to kind of elaborate on that a little bit. It's been on my mind. And if you're wondering why in the world did he put that scene of the two brothers finally meeting back up at Fulton County Stadium. Now, I don't think I named the stadium, but you know where it was at. It was in Atlanta. It was the stadium. So you knew it was Fulton County Stadium. You knew that was Hank Aaron. They were meeting up under the statue of Hank Aaron. But the Atlanta Braves will continue to be a big part of my story. But this story of Come Our Way is coming a little bit before all that, really. So there won't be a whole lot. Like I said, Come Our Way is not a story that could feature the Atlanta Braves. It could feature baseball. So that was a little bit inside thoughts about the 3 books and why I placed baseball the way I did inside those 3 books. So if you're not a Braves fan, why not? Anyway, until next time, I'll talk to you later.